1, 2, 3, 4. My life is a collection of sensations. My feelings are the proof that I'm alive. An endless spring, my senses, variations, wedded to emotions buzzing high. Yeah, my feelings stretch across the widest spectrum, changing every heartbeat of my time. And if there was some way I could select them, there's one choice I know that would be mine. I'd choose love, there is no feeling that comes close to you. I'd choose love, there is no feeling that has felt so true. I'd choose love, there is no shielding when you're shining through. Love, I think you're what we all are called to. You could keep your offices of power, robes of glory on some golden throne, or the grace of beauty's awesome flower, or basking in that spotlight all alone. Yeah, you could keep the riches of the richest nations, or mighty deeds that shake the skies above. If I were sane, I'd choose but one sensation, and that's to look at you and just feel love. I'd choose love, there is no feeling that comes close to you. I'd choose love, there is no meaning that has felt so true. I'd choose love, there is no shielding when you're shining through. I choose love, I think you're what we all are called to. Now the world is darkness, and the world is light. In between that starkness, subtle shades of sight. Anger, fear, and hatred wouldn't mean a thing unless love counterweighted them to give the bell its ring. I'd choose love, there is no feeling that comes close to you. Love, there is no meaning that has felt so true. I'd choose love, there is no shielding when you're shining through. Love, I think you're what we all are called to. Oh, I'd choose love, there is no feeling that comes close to you. Love, there is no meaning that is felt so true. I choose love, there is no shielding when you're shining through. Love, I think you're what we all are called to. I choose love, I think you're what we all are called to. I choose love, I think you're what we all are called to. Hey. Oh, noble words, noble concepts. Hi, folks. We're Arthur and Katie, and welcome to A Question of Meaning.
Yeah, that's quite idealistic, that song. And
it was idealistic. It used to stick in my craw until I changed one little 4-word line, and that was, keep the riches of the richest nations and mighty deeds. You could keep all that. If I, how did I put it?
If I could,
but as for me, I choose but one sensation. I used to really stick in my throat, as well it should have. And I changed it to, if I were sane, I'd choose but one sensation.
Yeah, because earlier you do say, if I could choose, and that's the...
Yeah, if I could choose. I changed that one too, if I could choose. I didn't used to write it that way.
But that's the rub there, that we can't choose. It's so hard to choose. I mean, we want to choose love, but it's so hard to choose. But anyway, we thought love would be an interesting topic for a show, since there's quite a bit to talk about it. And it's particularly because there's different types of love. There's the romantic love, but I think what you could kind of
love.
pick up in that song that song it's about the romantic love, but it's certainly about love on a much deeper level also, choosing love, the more universal love, the love that's talked about in spiritual disciplines.
Careful, because doesn't it sounds like you're categorizing love, which is something that we don't believe in. What do they have? Brotherly love, spiritual love,
sisterly love,
romantic love,
love of work.
Yeah, all that stuff, But and what we say in our book, The Game of God, Recovering Your True Identity, as I recall, I haven't read it in years, I need to, is that it's like, it looks like a river is different from a stream, is different from a spring, is different from the ocean, is different from, dew. But it's all coming from the same place. It's all water. Some of it has salt in it, but it's all the same, Some of it's brackish, some of it's, swampy. But it's all the same stuff, and that's what we think love is. I mean, it manifests in different ways. Like, I was in a Walmart once, and there was a family, mother, father, and 2 kids, a rare sight, shopping for an aquarium. And I could see this was a family project, and they were really into it. All of a sudden, I was so intoxicated with love for these complete strangers. And it was full tilt boogie. It was love. I mean, just a deep feeling for them, just of love for them. And it didn't mean I want to marry them or go to bed with them or own them or any of that stuff, But it was just as profound as what I've ever felt in the romantic category. The romantic category, let's see, how can we put this genteelly in the before 11 o'clock time zone?
Well, it's had expectations
Yes.
connected to it. We'll say that.
I love you, baby. Lay down, I think I love you. There's all that reproductive components of romantic love, the breeding instinct that comes into play. But, I felt it again for a little lady at a Krispy Kreme donuts. I confess, I occasionally succumb to Krispy Kreme, and you'd never guess all about it. But same thing, she was stuffing donuts in my box, and that's right, a box.
Well,
Krispy Kreme doesn't. And
confess all. This is the confess all show.
We want to be transparent here, folks.
But I'll say this about that song, that that's one of the reasons I'm with Arthur, is because he writes songs like that, these idealistic songs about love.
Doesn't manifest in reality, but
I mean, just to even have that idea that you would choose love over money, over power, over fame, just to even have the concept of that, because in our society, particularly in these modern times, it seems to me that people are really choosing money and power and fame much, much, much more than love. Love seems to have really receded into the background of what life is about. Because we're talking about love here in terms of it just being that connection to maybe what it is that makes us human. But people much rather be on TV in a reality show, with the chance of getting rich somehow. So I fell for the long-haired poet, songwriter, singer, guitarist, because he at least has that.
At least that's
the
right.
Aspiration for living, having that be. What his life is about, and what my life is about, is that love is more important. Not that it manifests very often, but at least it's a goal.
It's the thought that counts, I think is what you might be trying. No.
Yeah, that's kind of
actually, no, because the thing is that it looks like we're choosing all this other stuff over love. We're not choosing anything. One of the charming parts of our message is that free will is one of the most cruel myths ever invented. There is absolutely no such thing. And in fact, if we could have a green button and a red button, and the red button was anything else, and that's kind of unfair. Let's say the green button. Let's say the green button could be anything else in life. You could be a trillionaire. You could be the world's first trillionaire, and you could have immortality, and you could have everybody just loved you and smooched your rear end. That would be the red button, or whatever else you can come up with. And the green button is the experience of loving life and everyone in it. If you could get a sneak preview of that, just a taste of each category, and you were in your right mind, there is no way you would do anything but push the green button. You'd go for love every time. Because it's, maybe what we should do at this point. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. You may have guessed this show is actually unrehearsed. We've just been working on this stuff for many years. We've thought long and hard and written a couple of books on these subjects, which doesn't make us expert at all. We're stumbling along, putting one hoof in front of another,
For sure.
day in, day out. But nonetheless, I think the ideas hold. They've held for us at least. We'd like to share them with you. That's what this show's about. So our definition of love, please.
No, you go ahead. He's more the definition guy.
Yeah.
Even though I do recognize their importance, Arthur definitely is more into definitions than I am. So go for it.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think you wouldn't be enrolled in this whole project if it weren't for holding up logically. It doesn't contradict itself. We actually, are you ready for this, folks? We are about to give you a definition of love that is not a strong physical attraction for the opposite sex, which I read in one dictionary definition.
That's
I won't
right.
name
Look
it.
up.
But that's the love category. We define love as the experience of unconditional acceptance of what is. What is. What is our definition of reality. We define reality as what is, not what we think is or wish is or hope is or wish wasn't, but what actually is. And what we mean by that is objective physical reality. Microphone, even though you could import somebody who's never seen a microphone from a lost tribe of Borneo, they wouldn't know what that was, but they wouldn't stick their finger through it. They would respect the physical actuality of that. So philosophy, we think, has been going far too long trying to ask, does anything exist or not? Let's just assume it exists, And I invite anybody who thinks it doesn't to walk in front of a speeding bus and prove it.
Report back to us afterwards.
Let us know. We'll, Twitter us from the ICU if you make it that far. Anyway, so what is this kind of reality? Rocks are hard, water's wet. Let's assume that actually exists out there. That's what is by our definition of reality. It's all reality we need to worry about on our primitive evolutionary level for now. So it's the acceptance of that reality. That's what love is. And we say experience, which gets a little bit complicated. The experience of unconditional acceptance gets a little tricky there because experience means it's the difference between having a conversation about skydiving and going out the door into space, into the air. Oops, sorry. The experience of skydiving. If you've ever asked anyone, have you ever loved? And if they say, I'm not sure, they haven't. Guaranteed they haven't. It's as definitive an experience, even if it's all screwed up with hormones and, acquisitiveness and the desire to possess or any of the other garbage we bring to it. The experience of love is unmistakable. And those, if you have ears to hear, because if you've loved.
Well, and to put this definition into action and say a romantic relationship, imagine back to a time when you met somebody, out jogging or in a bar or something, and you found them interesting, and that meant that you found them acceptable. There were things about them that you liked, and that's just another way of saying that those things were acceptable to you. So you want to spend more time with them, and as you spend more time with them, you find more things about them that you like. In other words, that you find acceptable. And as you increase all these number of acceptable characteristics about that other person, eventually you get to a point where they're so overwhelming, this person is so acceptable, then that's what we call the experience of love. And our friends, we find them acceptable, maybe not quite as much as the people we are in love with, but that's why they're our friends, because they also satisfy that list of acceptable characteristics. The problem is that because we base our love on this kind of acceptable, unacceptable checklist, because
it's
everybody's
inbuilt psychologically, each one of us develops the positive and negative traits through life. I mean, from early life. And some things are acceptable and some things aren't. And rarely do we meet somebody that meets all that criteria at once.
And unfortunately, because we're such complex creatures, all of us, and have so many different traits, that there's no one that can satisfy anybody else's acceptable list entirely forever. And maybe there's one, but let's say most of us. So after a time of being around the person that you've fallen in love with, you start noticing things like, oh, wait, wow, I don't really like that. I wish they wouldn't do that. I don't like you when you do that.
Leave the seat down.
Those are unacceptable things. And, at first they're so minor compared to all those acceptable things that we just overlook them. But over time, those unacceptable traits become more and more obvious to us and more blot out the memory of all those acceptable traits. And soon enough, we find ourselves out of love and even out of relationship because the unacceptable have outweighed the acceptable. But it's basically that principle in play, that it's by accepting what is, that when I love Arthur, it's because I accept him as he is and as he is not the fantasies in my mind of what I wish he would be like, but the way he is right now. And
it makes me think of Flesh and Blood Woman. It's like I wrote about that. The romantic love. Yeah, and notice that in the definition we say the experience. So we define experience, and I'm not going to get into this. I'll just throw it out there, folks. The experience is being free of a survival identity, because we actually think that love is most of the time, according to our beliefs, we operate in a state of animal fight, flight, survival behavior. Overwhelmingly. Well, the reason we make a big deal out of love is because it's so rare. And we suggest that there is a third category to flight, fight. In fact, flight, fight is the psychological equivalent of fear and hate. And that's how we usually deal with every moment of reality, is in a state, because we think the unknown is the source of all fear, and the source of all hatred is fear. So to not know is to be, understandably, in a kind of a survival defensive posture where you're either fighting the way it is or you're running from it. There's a third category, which is also, we think, the third stage of evolution that's calling to us. Please don't blow yourself up without trying this first. Human race. And that third category is face reality. And to face reality, you have to accept reality. The catch-22 in our definition is love is the experience of unconditional acceptance of what is. Unconditional is without limits. You have to absolutely accept objective reality. And guess what? The greatest scientist in the world would not hesitate, if that scientist were in his or her right mind, to say, I don't know what one dot of objective reality is. That's what they're looking for, the answer to that. Katie went to Northwestern, degree in molecular biology and biochemistry. Did you know what anything under an electron microscope was, or in a petri dish ever? Did you ever meet anybody who did?
No.
Yeah, I mean, and not to denigrate science. I mean, for God's sake, we've got the technology that's bringing this show to you, for instance. But I mean, all the wonderful things they've done, there's still underlying it is the humbling truth that nobody knows what any of this stuff is called reality. So, and the point I'm laboring toward, I tend to go on, I'll try to do better, is that to unconditionally accept reality, you have to unconditionally know reality. Can you accept? Oh, sorry. Can you accept what's on the side of the piece of paper I'm looking at? No, because you can't see it. You don't know what it says. It's a cheat sheet, just to let you know some of the songs we're thinking about doing. So to unconditionally accept reality, you have to unconditionally know. So love is ultimately an absolute state. But we can have a lot of fun before we get to that. And we can go far enough with love to keep from achieving the booby prize of human self-extinction, which is the way we're going, operating from flight, fight, survival behavior with unrestricted breeding and bristling with hydrogen bombs and chainsawing the environment down around our heads. We can save ourselves with this conditional love, just for starters, which we think is pretty, at least worth thinking about. Next.
Well, I guess what I would say after all that, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm reluctant to get into definitions is because they're so complicated. I mean, you practically have to, you go into the meaning of every word and you miss the, we so, but what we're talking about here is taking love and removing it from that idea of it being about the limited ideas of it being in a relationship or being in a family, and that love has a whole different meaning than that. And really, go look at in the dictionary. You'll be surprised at what how the dictionary defines love. It does start off as a sexual attraction. I mean, that's not love at all. Love, that's more the definition of lust in my mind. And
You can mix. Well, never mind.
And
No,
no, I
acceptance. I accept your, TNA. I accept your, sorry, 11 o'clock.
but I don't think that's anyway. We'll have this discussion at another time, perhaps. But let's do a song. How about "Because I Love You"?
I think that would be
Because I think this is really what I'm talking about here, which is that moving love beyond these rules and boundaries.
This is the idea for this song came from a neat guy I knew out in California named Stuart Emery, and he said that I read where he said that the hardest thing for him when he found himself experiencing love for someone was to do anything or to not do anything, just to dig the experience and let it be and do nothing. 1, 2, 3. Because I love you doesn't mean I have to touch your hand or look into your eyes and try to make you understand. Because I love you doesn't take some word that's bound to try and capture this wild moment instead of letting it flow by. Because I love you doesn't mean I have to let you know. If anything, it really means I have to let you go. Because I love you as you are, this instant you are free from all these crazy expectations, all the things I want to be. The zoo is filled with good intentions. Come see your beauty through the bars and wonder why your heart lacks all the tension that comes with that sight of a deer on the trail ahead, or the growl in the night when the campfire's dead and you feel your place with all beneath the stars. Because I love you doesn't mean that I'm too blind to see that holding on to love is such a hopeless fantasy. Because I love you doesn't mean we have to meet again. So pass on, stranger, go in peace. I'll see you around the bend. Pass on, stranger, go in peace. This love will never end.
Well, that says so many things to me. And just first off is that, love isn't something you go out and find. It's really a place that you come from. But what I like in that song is also is when you say, in this instant you are free. And for me, my mom had, I guess my parents, I should say, had Glenn Campbell records when I was little, and that was one of my favorite things to listen to as a child. I mean, at the age of 5, I would sit and play records, Glenn Campbell and Nat King Cole. Those were my two favorites. And so I think I was imbibing Gentle on My Mind, I mean, from at that age. The image of what that song was about, which is, I don't want to be owned by anybody. And the idea of in that song, he talks about, it's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk that tends to keep my bedroll, rolled up and packed behind your couch. It's knowing that I'm not owned that keeps me here. But the second you close the door, the second you try to hold me down, man, I'm going to be out of here. And so, it's funny, as you were singing that, I realized how early I'd been hearing those lyrics. And it's really influenced my whole life. We're married, but I don't wear a wedding ring because I don't like the idea of being owned. And to me, that's what a wedding ring communicates to the world, is taken, owned. And I'm not that. To me, that's not love. To me, that's...
But it's an understandable reflex.
Yeah.
Because we're so starved for love.
Right.
Because we live almost all our lives in a state of flight, fight. And all of a sudden, Maria, I just met a girl named Maria. Well, it's probably copyright infringement. That's
right. See, if I quote the lyrics, is that not copyright infringement? But you sing them, it is. I mean, how does that work? I don't know.
But so the instinct is to get out your tent peg, and chain and stake your claim to love. Love is a rose, but you better not pick it. Only grows when it's on the vine.
That's right.
And but it's understandable. We're like starving children giving the keys to the bakery shop one sunny day, and the desire is to gorge. I can relate to that analogy. Right.
That's right. And we have such rules about love. Arthur went home to tell his mother once about an experience of universal love, maybe the woman at the Krispy Kreme counter. And, he was just saying how incredibly wonderful the sense of universal love was, to love all people equally. And she hated that idea. She hated the idea that he would love some Joe, how did she put it? Joe Schmo?
Joe Blow.
Joe Blow. She hated the idea that he would love Joe Blow as much as his own mother. And she said, and that means your love for me doesn't amount to much. That it diminished his love for his mother.
Maybe she had a point. You don't hear songs like, Joe Blow, I just made a friend named Joe Blow. I mean, we started this rap by saying, we think all love is the same. Mm-hmm. It just manifests differently, comes with different baggage, usually produced by our subjective ego or value judgments that we place on it and say what it means. Lie down, I think I love you, for instance.
See, I would disagree with you, because I would say every single Christian song, well, maybe not, March On, Onward Christian Soldiers, but I mean, most every Christian song is about the universal love that Jesus had, and that's why there is a Christian religion, because of the universal love that Jesus embodied. And but okay, those aren't the popular
songs. They sure
songs.
do sing about it and talk about it. We'll save religion for another day. We do tend to, I think the most traumatic manifestation of love, the experience that most of us are familiar with, is the romantic, is a strong, with all the baggage that comes with that, the desire for possession, to own, to last for a lifetime, those really sad vows, to love, honor, and obey as long as you both shall live. Look, I can't promise to do the laundry tomorrow. I could promise that, but it's probably worth about that much. So, anyway.
Well, that was also in Gentle on My Mind. It was the idea of some ink dried upon some line that had those promises that, to honor, cherish, obey.
Like a real estate closing.
Yeah, how do I know? I think back to the way I was when I was 22, which is when we met, and I was a completely different person.
Mm-hmm.
So
Literally, right? Your whole body changes.
well,
It's
that's
completely
true. Every
different body every 7
years,
years or something.
and
So
but
they say.
I mean, there's
So we're told.
psychologically, my God, I've changed so much, and to imagine that promises I made back then would be holding me now, it's kind of ludicrous, you know.
Well, that's part of the reflex. It's an understandable reflex, and what did Zorba call it? Wife, children, the complete catastrophe.
Well, I think though that there's
thank
kind
God.
of
I mean, if we didn't do that, we probably wouldn't be here. Yeah, we would.
well, actually, the reason we're married now is because we recognized a benefit to having the commitment to go through the tough times together. That because what I learned is that the problems that exist in our relationship, it's easy to think that they're Arthur's fault, but what I realized is that
vice versa. I'm sure.
Right, that that I have my own demons when it comes to relationship, and if I said, okay, this relationship, it's just not working, and go out in the world, I'll just find another person just like Arthur to play the same game all over again, because that's what's inside me. That's how I know how to play the relationship game. And I know this is true because I saw it with the only other long-term relationship I had was a 3-year relationship in college. And the same things that I disliked in this college boyfriend, I saw it happening in my relationship with Arthur right away. And that's when I woke up like, wow, this can't be a coincidence. It's got to be something in me that's requesting that kind of behavior from the universe. And so until I fix
it had to be you.
That's right. Until I fix myself, until I figure out what's blocking love coming from me and why I'm asking to be treated in those ways. It doesn't matter who's over there. It'll just be repeating, which Alone Again with Me is kind of it.
And never mind that stuff. That's exactly what I was thinking. Let's do this in A flat. Okay. I was thinking the same thing. That my first 2 victims and victim number 3 over here they've all serial monogamous. They're all the same. They're the essentials.
That's right.
Because it's automatic. It's why we have no free will. We fall in love. It's like falling down a well. Mm-hmm. Like falling on tripping on a banana peel. That's basically how love happens for most of us. It's anyway. This is a song about a complete catastrophe. Number 2, that's with a child involved. There's nothing quite as thoroughly devastating as an innocent child being crushed under the wheels of a relationship gone bad. That's also strangely, hauntingly familiar. I wrote this at a cheap, and I knew a tactical squad officer in San Francisco, and he said this hotel, he had investigated more murders and suicides than any other place in San Francisco that had worked.
Wow.
It's a fitting place to write this one. It's called Alone Again with Me. 2, 3. Well, here I am, alone again with me. My God, I can't believe that this is where I want to be. Holed up in this hotel in a city far away. The love I left behind me couldn't take another day, and here I am, alone again with me. Well, here I am, and some might call it free. But that which caused me all this pain is still inside of me. Demon that you are, you'd love to try it all again. to reach out for another, knowing how it's gonna end. And here I am, alone again with me. I've driven your love down like every love I'd known before. I couldn't stop myself until I'd pushed you out the door. And I swear I don't believe that I can play this anymore, but I'm afraid I will. 'Cause that old devil's calling still. Here I am, alone again with me. And I wonder if I've hurt myself enough this time to see the precious gifts I've wasted listening to this voice inside. The gift that's mine to offer, that for so long I've denied. And here I am, alone again with me. And here I am, alone again with me.
Well,
that's depressing. Yeah, gee whiz, let's pick it up. Should we put the number of the suicide hotline on the bottom of the screen here? Don't despair, folks. Remember, inside us, we're all love. That's our cheery message, you know. As a matter of fact, we talked about last week briefly our book, The Game of God, Recovering Your True Identity, is essentially, well, the bottom line is we theorize that the universe is supreme intelligence in a state of amnesia, an exercise, if you will, in God-class slumming, that it's the only way supreme intelligence can have the experience of ignorance and heartbreak, writing songs in a heartbreak hotel.
Can feel alone. I mean,
feel alone or be in relationship.
Right.
You know, falling in love and then falling out again. Mm-hmm. The whole panoply, you know, hitting the jackpot, you know. Winning and losing. Things that are beyond the ability of infinite light or whatever it is.
What are you saying, that to remember that because then those feelings of depression and sadness and aloneness and lovelessness are just illusions?
Completely. They're total melodrama. It's the days of our lives. As the world turns, you know, all my children.
Well,
that's a complete cosmic joke that we're playing on ourselves. You know, we don't give away the punchline or anything. Well, that's pretty much it.
But yeah, because you mentioned the last show that right, there were benefits to this theology, and for me, that's it. That really, when you come down to it, there's nothing but God. Everything else is illusion, and so that means all pain and suffering is illusion. Also, there is just the one.
We should give our definition of God is exactly the same as our definition of experience. It's being free of a survival identity. A survival identity requires other. It requires dualism. Mm-hmm. The one is infinite, theoretically. I don't know that. I never met God. Never got a postcard. He never writes. He never calls. She, it, whatever. You know? Very good reason for that. It's like if we knew we'd survive death, we wouldn't take life seriously at all the way we do. You know, just like live like your butt depends on it. You know, like constantly looking over your shoulder and wondering what's coming next. And
that's right. The mysteries are what make life interesting because you don't know what's coming, and so you live in suspense. And a game that you know the outcome of is no fun at all. I mean, think of just sports on television. When a game's live, it's really exciting because it's happening now. But even if it was, had happened 5 minutes earlier, it's not as exciting because you could just go online and find out what happened in that play, what's happening in the next play.
That's right.
The mystery has been solved.
And of course, the mystery means not knowing, and the not knowing, the unknown is the source of all fear, and the source of all hatred is fear. You can't be afraid of something you don't hate. You can't hate something you're not afraid of. So let the good times roll. We're here to play the game of life. And the reason, some of you who are struggling along with this presentation at home may be wondering, so what? You people think too much. Why is it important to know this stuff? Well, one answer that pops to mind is that we think the human race is approaching self-extinction, which is really kind of a booby prize for the most advanced life form on the planet. 4 billion years of evolution. Sorry if we're offending anybody who still believe Adam and Eve were a nice white couple.
I think we've already
who lived
offended
6,000 years
people
ago. They already tuned out? Okay. But for those of you who, kind of go with the scientific evidence that brought you the internal combustion engine that rides you to work and to church, and the air conditioning that keeps your sanctuary cool, and has let us go to the moon and drive around on it. Those people say the universe is, the Earth's been here for about 4,000 million years. And in all that painstaking evolutionary process, it's created humankind. And we are indeed a pivotal creature. We were evolved for a purpose. It's not just, no reason. It wasn't an accident. We don't believe in accidents. And what we have that no other life form has is the critical component to evolve to the next level. We're trying to get out of frontier land and go to Tomorrowland. That's what we think. We're trying to stop acting like Captain Kirk and start acting like Mr. Spock, the age of objective mind, dropping the subjective ego, which has ruled humankind forever throughout all recorded history. Now we're aiming intercontinental ballistic coconuts at each other. That's how much we've evolved. Flight, fight, a little bit of love, and flight, fight, fear and hate. But now, this thing that we have, I've already mentioned it, it's called what we call subjective ego, which is basically the personality, the person we believe ourselves to be. And it's nothing but a gigantic mass of value judgments about objective reality. It has nothing to do with objective reality at all. The life-changing event that I had when I was 28 years old was caused by my ability to drop my subjective ego for a few hours and simply see objective reality unfettered, relieved of my brilliant value judgments. And I was in paradise. It was so perfect. The dirt at my feet was like the jewelry case of God. It was all magnificently, perfectly beautiful the way it was and the way it wasn't. But we're missing that. And what's between us and that appreciation is our own subjective ego. And it's a very interesting thing. This one thing, I'm sorry, I'll shut up. I tend to go on. This is what we call an expendable primary survival identity. The primary survival identity is that which any life form most believes itself to be. For a squirrel, primary survival identity is squirrelness. It's absolutely, true to its squirrelness. Any wild creature that drops its primary survival identity out there in the woods is not going to last very long. It's the basic behavioral pattern, who that creature considers itself to be. But a human being, our primary survival identity, who most of us think we are, is a subjective ego. If I had my whole body amputated and only my brain was left floating in a nutrient tank, you'd come to the door and I'd be wired up to a speaker with electrodes and I'd say, "Hi there, come on in. Sorry I can't get up." And I wouldn't think it was this brain clot. I would think that I was the meanness, the Arthur-ness that's inside, the personality. That's who I think I am. So the point is that when a human being drops its primary survival identity, not only does it continue to survive, it thrives and takes the next step in evolution, which is liberation from the tyranny of subjective ego. That's her message.
I like that word, liberation. That's a nice word. Freedom. Well, I thought maybe we could get back to love and
Oh, yeah.
maybe
Because that's the obstacle to love. A subjective ego is a love killer. It's exactly what it is.
A song that Arthur wrote called Love Is All I'm Living For, which talks about some of the barriers to love, and particularly this is in the context of a romantic relationship. And if we say that that it's the acceptance, finding acceptable traits in another person, we fall in love with them. And one of the traps that we fall into is that we think, okay, well, if something unacceptable happens, say Arthur does something that I find unacceptable, I think better to lie to myself and to him that I find it unacceptable, that will allow love to continue, that I can just pretend it never happened. And so, I just smooth it over and just block it out of my mind, I think. And we do that over and over again. And eventually that's when, the love goes away. A lot of times not because of anything really overt, but just because we've been blocking off so much of that person in our minds because we just want to pretend and that it's not happening. That pretty soon we're not even seeing that person anymore. And then we just says, hi, good morning, good night, and you just,
I love you. I love you.
That's right.
This is a recording.
And you're not even relating to each other anymore. And so, it's pretending, it's lying to ourselves about what's really so is what is the love killer.
And this is also understandable because it's so rare, and now we're in love, and now we got married, and now everything is supposed to be, sugar candy mountain forever. We're supposed to be happy forever till death do us part. So we lie. We don't mean to. We don't mean to hurt each other. One of my songs, there's a line that says, "Didn't want to hurt you, but I guess I will." The trouble with a lie is that it won't lie still. So anyway, that's what I wrote after I met Katie. It's the first verse is how love appears. Second verse is how love disappears. And the third verse is how to apply CPR and maybe revivify it. Revivify. 1, 2, 3. Once you were a stranger, safely out of danger, till that old arranger, love it came and took you in. And we began. You were not protecting, you were not expecting love to be selecting you and finding your heart's key, and much less me. I don't want to lose you, baby, or abuse you. I have done it all before. I think we can make it. I don't want to break it. Love is all I'm living for. Blue skies started graying. Games that we were playing filtered out the raying light that was so very new for me and you. Weeds had been a-growing, lies had been a-flowing, neither of us knowing why that we were holding back. It looked so black. Well, I don't want to lose you, baby, or abuse you. I have done it all before. I think we can make it. I don't want to fake it. Love is all I'm living for. Then we started seeing that which we were fleeing haunted us by being true until we faced it down and all around. So we started cleaning, straightened what was leaning, and we found the meaning why the bird of love can't fly. Always a lie every time. I don't want to lose you, baby, or abuse you. I have done it all before. I think we can make it. I don't want to fake it. Love is all I'm living for. I don't want to lose you, baby, or abuse you. I have done it all before. I think we can make it. I don't want to take it. Love is all I'm living for. Love is all I'm living for. Love is all I'm living for.
Yeah, so easy to fake it too.
I love you. I love you. I'll see your love and raise you.
Well, and then
Sad.
And then there's also, I mean,
Also a big
we were
joke.
just talking yesterday, or the day before, about doing a show entirely about the subject of self-hatred, because that's another reason for faking it, is my deep insecurities over here, thinking that, you know, nobody could really love someone like me, so I have to put out a fake personality to be lovable. And if Arthur ever saw the real me, well, he'd be run screaming out the door.
You and me both.
So,
Especially since none of us know who we are to begin with, so the whole
Yeah.
thing is an act. It's
Yeah.
always faking it.
yeah.
Well, here we
Yeah,
got to do
gotta
this one. This is my only true country song. I was in Jacksonville, Florida, many years ago, feeling no pain, and I started thinking about, of all things, Tammy Wynette's immortal "Stand by Your Man," and it occurred to me that, because I was in a kind of a funny headspace, that there's some men who should not be stood by under any circumstances. And would it still be noble to stand by someone like that? So, it's, took 30 minutes to write, most of the time because I was laughing so hard. 1, 2, 3.
In sickness and in health until we die.
Oh, God. Well, I don't care if you still say you love me. I simply don't believe it could be true. 2/3 of who I am is someone I can't stand, so there must be something awful wrong with you. Well, how you've taken all the stuff I've offered ever since the day we said I do. Me drinking, chasing women, and you loving and forgiving. Hell, there must be something awful wrong with you. You're wrong. I said you're wrong. And I proved it every single way I know. You're wrong. Oh, so wrong. So, darling, get your love up off me. Let me go. Yesterday, I came home kind of tipsy. I got mad and I beat you black and blue. But first thing in the morning, girl, you're halfway back to charming, and there must be something awful wrong with you. Well, one night, while I beat up on the baby, I wondered just what's in this game for you. You know, I think your brain's gone fishing if you take the stuff I'm dishing. Girl, there must be something awful wrong with you. You're wrong.
But I love you.
Oh, so wrong.
I'll always love you.
And I proved it every single way I know. You're wrong.
I'm standing by you.
Oh, so wrong.
Always standing by you.
So, darling, get your love up off me, let me go. Well, ain't your backbone getting kind of brittle? You know I wear a pretty heavy shoe. You know I never will be loving while you let me do the shoving. Girl, there must be something awful wrong with you. Well, I know I ain't nothing but a turkey, a double-breasted gobbler through and through. Still, I'm thinking realistic that we're sadomasochistic, and there must be something awful wrong with us. You're wrong.
To have.
Oh, so wrong.
And to hold.
And I proved it every single way. I know I have. You're wrong.
In sickness.
Oh, so wrong.
And in health.
So, darling, get your love up off me.
You know I'll never leave you.
Oh, get your love up off me.
I'm only trying to please you.
Get your love up off me. Let me go. Please have mercy. Ooh.
Well, one of the
Sorry,
things
I lost
I
my
think,
pick.
in kind of in philosophy, which is really just a way of thinking about things, when you've got a proposition on the table like loyalty in a relationship is noble, it's a good thing. A useful way to test that hypothesis is to take it to its extreme. To think of the most extreme case that you can imagine, and then apply. And does it still hold up in that case? And that's what that song's about, is Arthur taking the most extreme example he could think of, which is an extremely abusive man, beating up the wife, beating up the children, acting
The baby,
the worst,
face it.
the baby, acting out in horrible ways. Is it still noble? Is loyalty really still, at that time, the most noble virtue? And
It's not a
of
virtue
course,
at all.
no, and that's what. So it's, and that's what I like, and we'll look at that some when we talk about religion. Is also it's taking religious or theological propositions to their most extreme. Does a religion answer some of the most basic questions, like why is there suffering? And if it can't, well, then what good is it? And so for anyone that was like, oh my God, what is he talking about? Well, that's what he's talking about is in that extreme case, does this hold up?
Well, I got a more extreme case that comes to mind. How about crucifying you? How about pounding? Don't worry, folks, this isn't a religious show. So, how about that? Mm-hmm. And is that
right.
silly to keep loving back? It's like, you may not want to live with a monster, but it doesn't mean you have to hate them. You can see that, well, what did Mark Twain so beautifully say? One of my favorite quotes of late is, when we remember that we are all mad, the mysteries disappear and life stands explained, revealed. Life stands explained, that's what it is.
Life stands explained.
When we recognize that we're all crazy, the mysteries disappear and life stands explained. It's the only way you can really forgive someone. Mm-hmm. Actually, to the point of saying that no forgiveness is necessary. They're nuts. You may not want to live with them or be around a monster, but it doesn't mean you have to hate them, including even if you have to lock them up, put them away. You don't kill them. If you're a Christian, you don't, in my opinion. You don't put them on a horizontal crucifix and pump poison in their veins. You realize they're mad and you put them in a maximum security mental hospital for the rest of their lives. But anyway, that's another. We'll do that on the folly of the so-called criminal justice system, which is about as barbaric and primitive as you can imagine.
So we have lots of topics that we want to talk about, and I'm sure we're going to be coming back to love many more times.
Oh, shoot, we're out of time.
I know. And
so
what we didn't get around to saying during the show, but we have a website and we have a phone that you've probably seen come up regularly throughout the show, and it'll be at the end also. And we'd love to hear your feedback, and if you've got an idea, a topic that you'd like us to address, email that to us, or if you got comments.
Hey, we can rap on anything.
That's right. And so, we'd love to hear from you, so please contact us. And we're having a good time.
Yeah, how much time we got? A minute?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
What can we do in 30 seconds?
I don't know. You're trying to think of...
A closure. This is kind of weird. This is the weird part of this. It's like following a clock exactly. Yeah, but we're going to be doing this weekly show. Just the idea of putting my songs out and putting our message out, see where we go. We're in the middle of a book project right now. And as I said, we've already written one back in 93. Oprah plugged it on the air called The Game of God, Recovering Your True Identity. So we'll be sharing some more ideas with you. And
so anyway, hope you'll tune in and watch again.
Yeah, thanks for being with us.